Donald had to move in with his son Peter after his house burned down, but he began to think that he was burdening his son because they were out late every night. Therefore, the older man decided to move into a nursing home, but his son had the most beautiful surprise in store. Donald Harper was sitting on the porch of his son, Peter's, watching the sun set on the horizon. It was a quiet night in Chesapeake, Virginia, but Donald's mind was far from serene. His home had been destroyed by a devastating fire 2 months ago, and he was still feeling the emotional impact of that terrible day. Since then, he had lived with Peter, his daughter-in-law Sandra, and their 3 young grandchildren. At first, the move was greeted with warmth and joy. The grandchildren loved hearing their grandfather's stories, and Peter and Sandra insisted they were happy to have him around. However, Donald could not ignore the growing concern that he was burdening the young family. "I'm telling you, Donald, your child will lose his mind soon and will ask you to move. It's better to be proactive and find something else on your own before that happens and your relationship suffers," said Mary, Peter's neighbor, as they sipped tea together on the porch. Mary, a woman the same age as Donald, was convinced that he was being a burden to her son. Donald sighed, sipping a sip of tea as he pondered Mary's words. She recounted her own bitter experience of having stayed at her daughter's house for only 3 weeks before being blamed for all the problems in the house. The relationship between them was never the same. "Do you think Peter and Sandra are too polite to tell me to leave?" Donald asked, looking at Mary with concern. She agreed vehemently. "Of course. They are young and have 3 young children. Do you think they'll want someone else to take care of?" Those words echoed in Donald's mind as he watched Peter and Sandra come home from work later and later, looking exhausted. They always smiled at him, but Donald knew something was wrong. He decided that maybe it was time to move into a nursing home. That night, he pulled Peter aside and suggested the idea, but his son asked to postpone the conversation. Donald knew he couldn't wait much longer. He had already researched a few options and found a decent assisted living near his former home. With a heavy heart, he decided that he would speak to Peter again the next day, determined not to be a burden to the family he loved so much. The next day, Donald woke up early. The weight of the decision hung over him like a dark cloud. He went downstairs carefully so as not to wake anyone up and found Peter in the kitchen, already dressed for work. "Peter, we need to talk," Donald said, his voice trembling but determined. Peter looked at his father and saw the seriousness in his eyes. "Of course, Dad. Let's sit down for a minute," he replied, pulling out a chair for Donald to sit down. Donald took a deep breath before starting. "I've been thinking a lot, and I think it's better for everyone if I move into a nursing home. I found a good place near here, and I can afford it. I don't want to be a burden to you and Sandra." Peter frowned, visibly shaken by his father's words. "Dad, you are not a burden. We love having you here. The boys love their stories. Why are you saying that? You arrive later and later. Mary has been telling me that I may be getting in the way." Peter sighed deeply, understanding the source of his father's concerns. "Dad, Mary doesn't know anything. She's just projecting her own experiences onto you. We work late because we are preparing a surprise for you. Something you deserve." Donald widened his eyes in surprise. "A surprise? What kind of surprise?" Peter smiled softly. "I can't spoil the surprise now. Trust me, Dad. We'll discuss that later. But please don't think you're a burden. You are our family." Donald agreed, but doubt still lingered in his heart. He knew he needed to see this surprise to convince himself that he was not disrupting the lives of his son and his family. And so, with a mixture of hope and apprehension, he awaited what would come next. The days passed, and Donald's curiosity grew by the moment. He noticed Peter and Sandra whispering to each other, exchanging complicit glances that made him more intrigued. The expectation of discovering the surprise was almost unbearable. Finally, one Saturday morning, Peter announced, "Dad, today is the day. We'll show you the surprise." Donald felt his heart race. He dressed quickly and walked downstairs with a mixture of nervousness and enthusiasm. Peter was already waiting for him at the door, with a cheerful smile on his face. "Come on, Pie. Is it ready?" Donald agreed, and the two left the house. As they drove through the familiar streets of the Chesapeake, Donald noticed that they were heading in the direction of his old home. He frowned, confused. "Peter, why are we going to my old house? It was destroyed by fire." Peter just smiled mysteriously. "You'll see." When they reached the street of his old home, Donald felt a knot in his stomach. The last time he was there, all he saw was ashes and debris. But when the car stopped, he was speechless. His old house was standing, fully restored. The fresh paint shone in the morning sun, and the garden was impeccably cared for. Donald looked at Peter, incredulous. How is this possible?" Peter put his hand on his father's shoulder. "Sandra and I worked hard to restore the house. We wanted you to have a place to call your own again. We knew how much this house meant to you." Donald felt his eyes fill with tears. "But that must have cost a fortune. I can't accept that." Peter smiled, moved. "Dad, this is the least we can do. You have always taken care of me. Now it is our turn to take care of you. This house is your home. It always will be." Donald hugged his son tightly, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. At that moment, he knew he didn't have to worry anymore. He was at home, really. Donald entered the house with Peter by his side, his heart pounding with emotion. Each step he took seemed to bring a new memory to the surface. The smell of fresh paint mingled with memories of his now-deceased wife cooking in the kitchen, and the sounds of Peter running through the halls as a child. The room was full of details he recognized. The old wall clock, now restored, the Persian rug he and his wife bought on a trip years ago, and even Donald's favorite armchair, now brand new. He felt a comforting warmth rise in his chest. "How did you manage all this?" asked Donald, turning to Peter with shining eyes. Peter smiled. "It was a joint effort. Me, Sandra, and even the children helped. We wanted everything to be perfect for you." They made their way to the kitchen, where Sandra was waiting with a welcoming smile. "Welcome back, Donald. I hope you enjoy what we did with the place." Donald looked around in wonder. The kitchen was a modern version of the one he remembered, with new appliances and cabinets, but it still retained the old charm. He could almost see his wife there, stirring the pots, and felt a bittersweet mixture of longing and joy. "Everything is perfect, Sandra. I don't know how to thank you." Sandra walked over to him and held his hand. "You don't need to thank you, Donald. You are part of our family, and we want you to feel at home." In the days that followed, Donald rediscovered every corner of the house, finding little surprises left by Peter and Sandra. Old photos were framed and placed on the walls, and her grandchildren's toys were scattered around the room, giving new life to the home. As time went on, Donald realized that the restoration of the house was not just physical. It was a renewal of his spirit, a reassurance that he had a place in the world, surrounded by those he loved. Mary's words were forgotten, replaced by the certainty that his family was there for him, and that he would never have to doubt it again. Each morning, he woke up with a smile, ready to make new memories in that house full of history and love. As the days passed, Donald began to adjust to his new, but familiar routine. The house, now full of life and laughter, became a haven of peace and joy for him. The mornings were spent with his grandchildren, infecting the house with his laughter and curious questions. He loved to tell stories about his past, his adventures, and even some funny family secrets. On a sunny afternoon, Donald and Peter were in the backyard, working together in the garden. It was a hobby they both enjoyed and an opportunity to talk and reconnect. "Remember when we planted those same flowers years ago?" Donald asked, a nostalgic smile on his face. Peter laughed. "I do remember, Dad. You taught me all about gardening. I've always enjoyed those moments." Donald nodded, feeling a warmth in his heart. "I'm happy to be able to relive these moments with you, son. This house has always been special to me, and to see you trying so hard to bring it back means the world." Peter stopped digging and looked at his father, the sincerity in his eyes. "I wanted you to know, Dad, it was never a burden to have you with us. You have always been a support, an inspiration. I wanted this place to be a symbol of everything you represent to us." Donald felt the tears welling up again, but this time they were of pure happiness. "Thank you, son. It means more than you can imagine." As the days turned into weeks, Donald's presence became an indispensable part of Peter and his family's lives. He helped the children with their homework, taught them practical skills, and spent his evenings watching old movies with Peter and Sandra. One evening, while everyone was gathered in the room, Peter stood up and made an announcement. "I have a proposal," he said, drawing everyone's attention. "We are going to have a special dinner every Sunday. A dinner where everyone participates in the preparation and each one brings a story to share. It will be our tradition." Donald's eyes lit up. "I love that idea, Peter. It will keep us together and create wonderful memories." And so, the tradition began. Each Sunday was a celebration of life, love, and family. Donald felt more alive than ever, surrounded by the affection and energy of those he loved. With each dinner, he saw the positive impact his presence had on everyone's lives and knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Sunday dinners have quickly become a favorite part of Donald's week. Each meal was an opportunity to create new memories and strengthen family bonds. That first week, the house was filled with vibrant energy as everyone prepared for the special dinner. Sandra and Peter were in the kitchen, coordinating the children in small but important tasks, such as washing the vegetables or setting the table. Donald watched with a smile as his grandchildren, with their focused faces, helped as best they could. The kitchen, now modern and full of life, reminded him of the days when his wife also ran the meal preparations, transforming the space into a center of laughter and conversation. When they finally sat down at the table, Peter raised his glass to make a toast. "The family," he said, with a wide smile. "May our Sundays always be full of love, laughter, and good stories." "To the family," everyone repeated, toasting enthusiastically. After the toast, the best part of the night began: the stories. Peter was the first to share a childhood memory, a prank he and his friends did in the summer. Everyone laughed, especially Donald, who remembered that day well. Sandra then told a funny story about a culinary mistake that almost ruined an important dinner. The children laughed out loud, imagining their mother in such a situation. When it was Donald's turn, he hesitated for a moment, watching the attentive faces around the table. "Well," he began, "I think it's time to tell you a story that I've never shared with you." Everyone leaned a little closer, eager to listen. It was a winter's day, many years ago. Her grandmother and I were newlyweds, and our car broke down in the middle of a blizzard. We were in the middle of nowhere, with no houses or gas stations nearby. I thought we were lost. The children's eyes were wide, and Sandra and Peter were equally captivated. Donald continued, "After walking for hours, we found a small cabin. An elderly couple took us in, gave us hot soup and a place to spend the night. They taught us that even in the most difficult times, there is always goodness in the world." There was a moment of respectful silence, followed by applause and hugs. "Thanks for sharing this, Grandpa," said one of the children, his eyes shining. That night, as everyone said goodbye and went to bed, Donald felt filled with a sense of belonging and love. He knew that Sunday dinners were more than just a meal. They were the reaffirmation of what really mattered: family. And he was grateful for every moment he spent with them, knowing that they were creating a legacy of love and togetherness that would last generations. Every Sunday, the dinners became more special and eagerly awaited. The tradition of sharing stories strengthened family bonds and created an environment of trust and love. However, not everything was always perfect. As time went by, small challenges began to emerge. One morning, Donald woke up with a sharp pain in his chest. He tried to ignore it, attributing it to his advanced age, but the lingering pain worried him. Sandra noticed his tense expression during breakfast and insisted that he go to the doctor. Reluctantly, but knowing she was right, Donald agreed. In the office, after a series of tests, the doctor informed him that Donald needed heart surgery. The news fell like a bomb on the family. Peter and Sandra tried to hide their concern, but their eyes gave away the fear they felt. That night, as everyone gathered in the room, Donald decided to broach the subject. "I know this is scary, but I trust the doctors. Besides, I have all of you with me. That's what matters most." Peter shook his father's hand. "We are with you, Dad. Let's get through this together." The days leading up to the surgery were full of anxiety, but also of unity. Donald felt more loved than ever. receiving constant visits from his grandchildren, who brought drawings and stories to cheer him up. Even Mary, the neighbor who had previously sown doubts, showed up to offer her support. Finally, the day of surgery arrived. As they waited at the hospital, the family united in prayer and hope. The hours seemed endless, but eventually the doctor appeared with a smile. The surgery was a success. "Donald will recover well," he announced. The room exploded with relief and happiness. Peter hugged Sandra tightly, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. "Thank you, doctor," he said, his voice breaking. When Donald woke up in the recovery room, he saw the relieved, smiling faces of his family around him. "I told you we'd get through this together," he muttered, still groggy. In the days that followed, Donald slowly recovered, surrounded by the love and care of his family. Sunday dinners became even more meaningful, each story shared carrying new weight and new hope. Donald knew that life would always bring challenges, but he also knew that with his family by his side, he could overcome any obstacle. He was truly blessed, and every moment spent with them was a priceless treasure. With Donald's recovery well underway, the family decided to organize a large celebration to mark his recovery and reaffirm the bonds that held them together. Sandra had the idea of throwing a surprise party, inviting friends and family who were part of Donald's life. On the morning of the party, the house was in a joyous bustle. Peter took care of the last preparations in the backyard, while Sandra and the children decorated the room with balloons and old photos. Mary, the neighbor, brought a homemade cake, now fully integrated into the family's spirit of togetherness. Donald, oblivious to the surprise, was resting in his room. He walked down the stairs attracted by the sound of laughter and lively conversation. When he entered the room, he was greeted by a chorus of surprise and warm applause. Her eyes filled with tears as she saw so many dear faces. Old friends, neighbors, and relatives she hadn't seen in a long time were there, all gathered to celebrate her life. Peter approached, holding a microphone. "Dad, today we are here to celebrate you, your strength, your love, and the impact you have had on all of us. This party is to thank you for everything you have done and continue to do for us." Donald, moved, took the microphone. "I have no words to express how much this means to me. To see all of you here, to know that I am loved, is the greatest blessing I could ask for. Thank you very much." The party continued with music, food, and many stories shared. The children ran around the yard, while the adults laughed and talked animatedly. Donald felt rejuvenated, every smile and hug filling his heart with joy. That night, as the sun set and the party drew to a close, Donald looked around, taking in every moment. He knew that life was made of these precious moments, and he was grateful for each one of them. Peter, next to his father, put an arm on his shoulder. "We love you, Dad. Never forget that." Donald smiled, feeling truly blessed. "I know, son, and I love you all, more than words can say." As night fell, the family gathered once again for one last toast, celebrating not only Donald's recovery but the strength of the love that bound them together, vowing to keep those bonds firm and unbreakable no matter what the future brought. With the celebration still fresh in everyone's memory, the routine at Peter and Sandra's house returned to normal, but something had changed. The connection between everyone was stronger than ever. Donald, feeling more energetic and motivated, decided to make the most of each day. One morning, while they were having coffee on the porch, Peter noticed a special sparkle in his father's eyes. "What are you thinking, Dad?" he asked, curious. Donald smiled. "I was thinking about something I always wanted to do. A family trip. Something we can all remember forever." Sandra, listening to the conversation, entered the balcony with a smile. "That sounds like a wonderful idea. Where do you want to go, Donald?" Donald thought for a moment. "How about the mountains? I remember a small cabin that his mother and I once rented. It's a beautiful place, perfect for relaxing and making new memories." Excitement took over the family, and soon preparations for the trip began. The children were especially excited, making lists of what to bring and imagining the adventures they would have. Mary, the neighbor, helped by taking care of the house while they were away. When they finally arrived at the cabin, they were greeted by a breathtaking view of the mountains and fresh air that invigorated the soul. The cabin was cozy, with a fireplace reminiscent of ancient times and large windows that let the sunlight in. The days at the cabin were filled with hiking, picnics, and lots of laughter. Donald told stories around the campfire, reliving moments from his past and creating new memories with his family. One night, as the stars shone in the sky, Peter sat next to his father. "Thank you for bringing us here, Dad." "That's exactly what we needed," Peter said, looking up at the starry sky. Donald smiled, feeling a deep peace. "I just wanted everyone to know how much they mean to me. These moments together are precious, and I am grateful for each and every one of them." On the last night at the cabin, the family had a special dinner. Sitting around the table, they shared their favorite moments from the trip and reaffirmed their love and commitment to each other. Donald looked around, seeing the smiling faces of his family, and knew he had done the right thing. The trip to the mountains was not just a break from the routine, but a powerful reminder of what really mattered. Bonds of love and union that, like the mountains around them, were indestructible. And so, with full hearts and renewed spirits, the family was ready to face any challenge that life could bring, always together. The following months passed with the serenity of a calm river. Donald continued to enjoy each day with his family, the bond created and strengthened over the past few months offering him a deep sense of accomplishment and peace. Each Sunday remained a special day, with shared stories and laughter filling the house, and the memories of the trip to the mountains remained fresh in their hearts. In a soft autumn, as the leaves fell and covered the garden with a blanket of vibrant colors, Donald began to reflect on his life and the legacy he would like to leave to his family. Sitting on the porch, watching the leaves dance in the wind, he decided to write a letter to his children and grandchildren. With the help of Peter and Sandra, he sat down at the table and began to write. His words flowed with sincerity, expressing the love he felt for each of them, the precious moments they had shared, and the importance of valuing family above all else. "Dear children and grandchildren," he began, "throughout my life, I have learned that true treasure is not in material possessions, but in the moments we share and the love that unites us. The journey of each of us is unique, but the strength and comfort of the family are constant. I want you to know that every laugh, every hug, and every story told is what I value most." Donald ended the letter with a heartfelt request that the family continue to care for each other, to support each other, and to keep the tradition of Sundays alive. When Donald handed the letter to Peter and Sandra, he was greeted with tears of gratitude and tight hugs. The family read the letter on a special evening, sitting together around the table, and Donald's words touched everyone deeply. Over the years, Peter and Sandra's home has continued to be a place of love and togetherness. The tradition of Sunday dinners was maintained, and Donald's stories became a vital part of family life, passed down from generation to generation. Donald lived the rest of his days surrounded by the love he helped build, knowing that his legacy of family and affection would endure, like the mountains he loved so much. And so, with a tranquil and satisfied heart, he left this world knowing that he had left something truly valuable, a united, strong, loving family that would continue to celebrate life, one Sunday at a time. A person's journey doesn't have to be yours. Mary told Donald that her son would get tired of his presence in her house, judging by her own experience, but she was completely mistaken, because what happened to her wouldn't necessarily happen to Donald. Take care of your parents in their old age. Sometimes putting your parents in a nursing home is unavoidable, but take care of them if you can, because family is all that matters in this world. Share this story with your friends. It can brighten their day and inspire them. Until the next exciting story.